Hey there, everybody. Tonight we're playing Pac-Mania from 1987. Namco published the game, of course. They are the Pac-Man team. This came out for the NES in 1990 by Tengen. This was an unlicensed game. This was not officially licensed by Nintendo, so it came in one of those weird-looking Tengen cartridges. This is my favorite of the Pac-Man games. I know that's kind of sacrilege. Most people would say it's either Miss Pac-Man or the original Pac-Man, but this is it for me. I love this game, and you see why right here. It is the ability to make Pac-Man jump. I love this. I always had difficulty with escapability playing Pac-Man games where I felt cornered by a ghost and there was nothing I could do, and it was frustrating. With this game, the jump ability gives you more options and makes the game easier to play. Now, this particular conversion in the game is far easier than even the arcade original, but there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. The sound effects are spot on. This is exactly what the game sounds like in the arcade, but the music is a bit toned down. It's chiptune and isn't quite as good. So, I played this game in 1988. That's how I first found out about it. I didn't play this in an arcade. I played it at a Howard Johnson restaurant in Greenfield, Mass., which is where I was living at the time. There were two arcade games in this restaurant. There was this, and there was Pole Position 2 for some reason. So I played this because I suck at pole position, and I fell in love with it from the first time that I played it. Am I an expert at the game? Absolutely not. But I find this a lot easier to play, so it's fun to revisit every now and again. Howard Johnson in Greenfield was a great place to go when you're in high school, when I was in high school. And in the summer of '88, that's when I was going into my junior year of high school. And I was returning to Greenfield High School after going to two different schools over the previous 2 years. I had gone to Holyoke Catholic High School in Holyoke, Mass. For my freshman year. After my mom and I had a falling out, and I wound up living with my dad's mom for my freshman year. And then my sophomore year, I lived with my dad for most of that year. But that didn't go too well because my dad and I have never gotten along. So, once I returned to my mom's for my junior year, it was all Greenfield all the time. For like the last 2 months of my sophomore year, and then junior and senior year. This particular Howard Johnson in Greenfield, Mass. Not only had a couple of arcade games in it, which made it a place that I wanted to visit, but they also had a mini golf course that they would run. So that's how you want to spend your summer if you've got any extra money, is you walk down, and I could walk down there from where my mom and my family were living. I could walk down there. It didn't take too long. And of course, during the summer, taking a nice walk, it's makes sense. We didn't have air conditioning in the apartment that I was living in. My mom only had one in her bedroom. So it was better to be outside and to go places where there might be some air conditioning to try and cool off. And playing mini golf outside, especially toward the evening, was always a lot of fun to do. So I spent my fair share of time at this Howard Johnson, and one of the things I remember is playing this game. Really, really enjoyed it. I thought that it was accessible, and I've always had fun playing it. Now, I didn't have my NES until Christmas of 1990, so I didn't have this game for a while. You know, I have it now. I actually have it for the Genesis. But I would have loved this if I had my Nintendo in high school. I played an NES in high school by way of going to friends' houses. My best friend in high school, Kevin, he had an NES, so we would, every so often, we would go to his house, and we would play games on that. We played Vindicators, which I might play for the channel. He beat Batman. I didn't play it. I watched him play, and I kind of helped him out by giving him some hints from the Nintendo Power magazine that he had. So I was kind of like the co-pilot for that game. And he also played through Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. And again, I was the co-pilot for that game too. I think one of the reasons for being like the co-pilot type was that I had done so much watching of people in arcades because I didn't have a lot of money that it felt weird for me to ask him to play it unless he offered. With my friend Chris in Worcester, it was a little bit different because we played 2-player games and it was much easier to slide in and play. We would play RBI baseball a lot, and that was a game that really decorated my my summers for my junior and senior year. If you look up Greenfield, Massachusetts on a map, you see where it is. It's pretty close to the Massachusetts-Vermont border. When I lived there in the second half of the 1980s, it was still a relatively small town. It has grown a bit. It is much different now than it was when I was going to high school. And a lot of stuff has changed. Unfortunately, not all of it for the better. But that's kind of what happens. Places change. Sometimes it's for the better. Sometimes it isn't. I do regret not going back very much after I graduated from high school. Just to kind of see how things had changed before they changed, you know? By the time I had gone back, whoa, I should have been gone. I don't know how I didn't die there. Because it was an important part of my young adulthood, really. And regardless of how I felt about the town or how bored I might have felt living there at the time, it was still important to me. And I do feel bad that I haven't really been back in probably a good 7 or 8 years. Of course, with this new COVID normal, I don't know when or if I would ever make a trip out there again. Just talking about it, but it's something that I would have liked to have done. So the things in Greenfield that I remember, aside from the high school, of course, which is where I went to school, the Howard Johnsons, which I talked about. There was a teen center that was just awesome. On Friday nights, it was for junior high school students, and I wasn't in junior high anymore by the time I moved out there. So Saturday nights were my thing. Every Saturday night was like circled on my calendar. I was going to the teen center on Saturday night. That was how it was. I was going to find the money to pay the cover charge because everyone had to pay an admission to get in. And that place was just amazing. Big dance floor, snack bar, a place where you could watch videos. They would play movies. And my favorite, of course, there was an arcade room. So there were coin ops to play. You'd have to pay to play them. They weren't on free play, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Some of the coin ops in there were Karate Champ, Cyberball 2072, Time Pilot 84, and there was a weird version of Track and Field that they had. That's not good. I knew he was jumping too. The reason I say that it's a weird version of Track and Field is that it was almost like a bootleg because it was track and field and hypersports combined. So, oh, that's not good. So there were track and field events, and then it would flip over to hypersports events. So it was very strange as someone who had played a bunch of track and field in arcades during the mid 80s. Track and field was the game that I would play in arcades when I was broke and I had no tokens left, because I could milk 1 credit. I could milk at least 20 to 30 minutes off of 1 credit. I knew he was going to jump, and I didn't do anything about it. So that teen center was just such a big part of my life in Greenfield. Just Saturday nights, that was the place to be. And that's when I first started to hate snow. Was on Saturday nights where it was snowing and they had to close it because there was too much snow on the ground. It was like legit disappointing. Like, you got to be kidding me. It can't snow during the week? So I did love that there. Greenfield had 2 theaters. They had a couple of supermarkets. One of them was like a chain supermarket, and another one was like a privately owned, like, hometown supermarket place. There was a convenience store. There is the convenience store, by the way, still there, called Call's Corner. I spent a ton of time at because they had a mini arcade in the back of the store. And I think I'm done. And I'll actually play some games that were in Call's Corner, the NES conversions of those games, in future episodes. But I spent a ton of time there. Call's Corner was so close to where I was living. Oh, I didn't get a high score. That's not good. I got second. I guess that's good enough for now. We'll play one more time, though. There was a McDonald's. There was a Friendly's, which is a New England kind of restaurant. Let's start here and get a score to start with. Get that 70,000 points right off the bat. There was an Ames, which is like a discount department store. Like a low-end... You don't want to necessarily call it Walmart, because Walmart's far more... had far more inventory than Ames ever did. But that was as close to Walmart as Greenfield got when I was living there. So, so there's that. There was a park. How did I not die there? That was pretty much across the street from where I lived. And that was about it. Like, it was, as someone who lived in urban settings for most of his life, that was weird. Like, I had lived in Holyoke, Mass, where there was like a mall there, there was a pool hall there, there were restaurants there. I mean, it was like everything, and a lot of the stuff was pretty close by. And having moved from where I was in Holyoke, Mass, where I could walk to the Holyoke Mall if I wanted, not having any kind of mall within any kind of close proximity was, for me, because I was such a mall kid, it was heartbreaking. The only time I really got to go to a mall is when I would go and visit my dad's mom in Chicopee, Mass, and I would go to either the Fairfield Mall in Chicopee or the Holyoke Mall in Holyoke, Mass. Fairfield Mall no longer exists, but the Holyoke Mall is still surviving somehow, despite COVID and these changes to online shopping have not helped. Oh, I'm not done. I thought that was the last of the dots. All right, let's see. Where did I miss one? Whoop. Up here. Okay. We're just gonna finish up. That's a quick way to get points right there. This year will make 32 years since I graduated from high school. I am not happy about that. I don't... I have not coped too well with the fact that I'm going to be turning 50 in April. I have tried to avoid the getting old bug. I really have. I don't like it. I like the fact that I lived through some really cool things and I can talk about these things firsthand, and that comes with being old. But at some point, like, you're just expected to kind of act your age, and I might be getting there. I really might be getting there, and that's sad to say. But I think it's more the, I remember back in my day, and I like things better, and that's emblematic of someone being old, is not being able to adapt to what's new and current. There's still some stuff that's new and current that I like new technology, like new cell phones, new computers, like that stuff I'm still into, but some of like the trends these days, I can't do. Like, people still ask me when I'm getting a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series, and I'm not getting either of those. I'm good with playing old school stuff. Once my Switch becomes obsolete, that's it for me. I'm going straight retro for the rest of it until my arthritis makes it so I can't hold a controller anymore. And I guess that's like the biggest old man example of all, right? It's just not accepting what's new anymore and not liking it, and remembering how things used to be and liking that better. I guess that's really emblematic of being old. But it's honesty. You know, playing this older stuff, it's not just about whether it's better or not, it's the memories that they leave me with. Like, I decided to play this tonight because I have fond memories of the game. It's not because it's any great shakes. It's probably not going to be very many people's favorite Pac-Man game or retro game at all, but for me, it holds personal significance. And that's why I thought it would be fun to pop it in and play it for this episode. I did, speaking of birthdays, I got myself an early birthday present today, or yesterday, I should say. Oh, that's too bad. I bought myself a 50th birthday shirt. So, provided nothing happens between now and April 22nd, so I can wear it. It's a picture of a Nintendo controller. It says "Level Up 50th Birthday" on it. It was just something I felt that I had to have. I'm still excited about it, even though there's not much that's going to be going on because of COVID and such. I don't anticipate doing very much for my birthday this year, but I'm still looking forward to it. You only turn 50 once, right? So I'm going to try and enjoy it the best I can. That was a bad move on my part. But I picked that up for myself. I had to do it. It'll have been 10 years ago from that point in on April 22nd of 2012 when I really started to go full-on retro. And I really haven't looked all that far back since. That was when I decided this is really what I wanted to focus on. Of course, back then, you know, I didn't have proper webcams. I was trying to do stuff on YouTube, and it was very guerrilla style. Some of my older videos, if you've seen them, or some of like the retro unscripted stuff, like I was setting my laptop on like a bin to try and hold it up so that, so I could get the right camera angle. I was sitting in front of my TV, and it was just rough. I mean, now I can actually play a game, and I can talk to you guys, or I can open a brand new game, and I have a webcam that's better than 720p. So that's certainly nice. I have a microphone that's like dedicated. Back then, I was using a Rock Band microphone, a USB Rock Band microphone. So I've come a long way since in the last 10 years. That's not smart. All right. Ow! I was trapped in the corner. All right, we'll play one more time here. Yeah, 2012 is when the whole my retro phase started, when I decided to go back instead of forward. All right, let me put my name in real quick. All right. So we'll start hard. So you get 150,000 points if you can finish this first level here without losing all your lives. I don't even think eating ghosts is really worth it at this stage because you get so many points to start with. Definitely want to get the fruit targets, though. Is that going to be speed? Yes, it is. That's as good as it gets right there. Oh, in the arcade, I would have been dead right there because I jumped right into him. But the way that the camera is, like, the way the camera is, like, you can't quite tell the height of your jump and whether you can clear anything. All right, I'm taking this seriously now. I want to see if I can get that high score before we're done. I think playing this way is going to be the best way to do it. Get that 150 grand. But the trick is you have to try and clear it in as few lives as possible. Here we go. 172 grand. There you go. And I still have, what, 4 lives left? All right. Darn it. I'd like to try and get 200 grand. It's possible. Not if I do that. All right. There we go. Ooh, can I get the last one? Yeah! I got it! Excelente! Hate that ghost. Oh, no! Alright. Running out of lives here. I got one extra in reserve. Shouldn't even worry about the ghost at this point. Oh! That's not right. Alright, I have 2 dots left. 3 dots left. Come on. There we go. Alright. Last life. Just want to eat those. The green ones are the jumping ones. Really like to get that fruit target. I'm close to 220 grand. Oh! Ah! That's that. All right. So that's a look at Pac-Mania. My favorite of the Pac-Man games. I'm sure that it's not everyone else's favorite, but it's the one that I identify with the most. And it's one that I like to go back to every now and again. Maybe in the future, I will play the Sega Genesis version to see what the differences are. Hope you enjoyed this and the trip back in my past. I'll definitely be talking more about my past as I get closer to my 50th birthday in April. For now, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll do it again really soon.